Three factions. The three factions, Sandai Zirioku, are the three groups of fallen angels, devils, and angels mentioned in the Bible, who are the main focus of high school DxD. Pre-Great War. The three factions started thousands of years before the start of the story after the biblical God cast out angels that opposed his teachings, creating the fallen angels who inhabited in the underworld alongside the devils. Unlike other supernatural groups, Norse gods, Hindu gods, Greco-Roman gods, etc., which were apparently more or less independent of each other, these three factions were all interconnected. Together, the three factions spawned the Judeo-Christian religion and became part of the Bible. Great War. The three factions of angels, devils, and fallen angels eventually warred against one another under the leaderships of the biblical God, the four great Satans, and the fallen angel organization, Grigori, led by Azazel, in a conflict which came to be known as the Great War, which continued for an unknown period of time till it ended hundreds of years prior to the creation of the Qliphoth Treaty after the deaths of the biblical God and four great Satans. Post-Great War. Following the deaths of the biblical God and the four great Satans as well as a massive loss in their main forces, the Great War finally ended, but it left the three factions in a state of conflict. However, due to a state of extreme exhaustion after the Great War and with all three factions losing their main forces, neither of the three sides wanted to continue battling. So while there was no peace between the factions, outright battles did not occur either. The factions continued in this state with occasional conflicts between members who crossed paths for centuries. Peace Treaty. After the Excalibur event caused by Kokobeel, which nearly destroyed the existing status quo of the three factions, the top brass of each faction decides to hold a conference to solve the existing issues among the three factions. They eventually reached an agreement by following Azazel's proposal of forming a peace treaty between the three factions. The peace treaty known as the Qliphoth Treaty, Qliphoth, was finally drawn up and ended the disputes between the three great powers as they started to work together to rebuild their religion. Khaos Brigade terrorism. However, the three factions would encounter the first major threat to their new status quo in the form of the Khaos Brigade, which consisted of multiple races, devils, fallen angels, humans, who are descendants of legendary/mythological heroes, and a few angels and others who were dissatisfied with the alliance of the three factions and sought to plunge the world into chaos. The three factions would learn about the Khaos Brigade's existence during their conference as Azazel revealed their existence to Michael and Surzex, with the Khaos Brigade attacking their conference in hopes of assassinating the leaders of the three factions, though their attack was foiled. The first Khaos Brigade faction that sought to destroy the status quo and the three factions was the Old Satan faction, a collection of devils who were descendant from the original four great Satans. They were defeated after they launched an attack at the Youth Devil Raiding Game tournament, with the rest of their leaders being killed, which forced them underground. Seeking to expand their alliances, the three factions attempted to form an alliance with Odin of the Norse gods and the Shinto gods, but their meeting was interrupted by Loki, who objected to the alliance and attempted to kill Odin. Loki was defeated by the young devils of Qliphoth Academy as the Norse gods and the Shinto gods became allies of the three factions. With the Old Satan faction no longer the dominant power in the Khaos Brigade, the Hero faction attempted to increase their power and influence within the Khaos Brigade. They kidnapped the leader of Kyoto's Yukai, Yasaka, whom Seraphol Leviathan was hoping to meet to and discuss an alliance between the Kyoto Yukai faction and the three factions. Yasaka was later rescued by members of the Gremory Peerage as the Kyoto Yukai faction became an ally of the three factions. With Ophis becoming interested in Issei Hayadu's growth as the Red Dragon Emperor, Azazel had her meet with the Occult Research Club in hopes of getting her to leave the Khaos Brigade, which would force the Khaos Brigade to collapse. The Hero faction betrayed Ophis and stole a portion of her power by using Samel, which they used to create Lilith. Shelba Beelzebub reappeared and used Leonardo's Annihilation Maker to create giant anti-monsters in an attempt to destroy the underworld for rejecting him, instigating the demonic beast riot. The allies of the three factions rallied to fight of the anti-monsters as the Young Devils were able to defeat the main members of Hero faction, causing the collapse of the Hero faction and Old Satan faction. Due to violating the Qliphoth Treaty by having Ophis meet with the Occult Research Club in secret, Azazel resigned as his position of governor of the Grigori, with the Cadre Shemhazai becoming his successor. After the initial downfall of the Khaos Brigade, the members of the three factions noticed that the scattered factions of the Khaos Brigade were gradually being united under a single banner, with Nilrem attempting to infiltrate Qliphoth Town to kidnap Ravel Phoenix in order to perfect their fake Phoenix tears by analyzing her demonic power. Later, while attempting to negotiate with the vampires of the Carmilla faction, the three factions found themselves mixed up in the vampire civil war, due to the Occult Research Club's desire to save Gaspar Vladi's childhood friend, Valerie Teeps. During the war, they learned that the son of Lucifer, Rizavim Laban Lucifer, is alive and the one behind the efforts to rebuild the Khaos Brigade, as he formed his own faction, Qliphoth, to invade the other world by defeating Great Red, who guards the dimensional gap using the 666. After the war was halted, the vampires become allies of the three factions sent aid to help the vampires rebuild their country. In order to respond to Qliphoth, the three factions created a special anti-terrorist team, DxD, to fight against Qliphoth, with them being granted special clearance to move among the faction to fight against Qliphoth. Qliphoth would continue to perform terroristic acts against the three factions, such as attacking Oros and stealing Agrias, invading heaven and inciting a rebellion of dissatisfied exorcists. Team DxD managed to track down the stolen Agrias and defeat Rizavim, though they were unable to prevent Trihexa's awakening. Now led by the two legendary evil dragons, Apophis and Azzy-Dahaka, the newly released 666 would begin rampaging in the territories of the three factions, causing great devastation. The three factions and all of their allies were able to defeat the evil dragons and defeat Trihexa by sealing it, though it also forced the higher-ups of each faction and the gods of each factions to seal themselves with Trihexa to steadily cut down its combat power. Post-Evil Dragon War. Following the Evil Dragon War, the strength that the three factions have regained was once again exhausted due to the fact the factions lost a majority of their leadership, with 3 of the 4 great Satans and 3 of the 4 great Seraphs along with the former governor of the Grigori, Azazel, being sealed in the isolation field barrier. Due to the loss of leadership, the three factions had a change in leadership as Ajuka Beelzebub became the leader of the devils and Gabriel became the leader of the angels. As the number of Satans was reduced, Ajuka planned to implement the 7 Great Satan system to increase the number of active Satans in the future, while the higher-ups of heaven seem want to fill the Seraphs and higher-up seats in the future, as they would be asking powerful reincarnated angels to fill in those roles in the future. The three factions organized the Azazel Cup, an international rating game tournament that anyone could compete in as way of easing tensions between each of the mythological factions and to cultivate powerful fighters in the future. During the Cup, Hades assembled his own group, the Alliance of Hell, which wanted to eliminate the other mythological leaders, the three factions and the Longinus. After several Alliance of Hell attacks such as Nyx's attack on the Occult Research Club and Erebus' attack on Kyoto, the three factions managed to convince the other mythological factions to allow them to defeat Hades and his patrons. As Team DxD managed to corner the Alliance of Hell to London, DxD defeated the entirety of the remaining Alliance members, capturing them. When the Vala team was scheduled to deliver the defeated Hades and Ngramenu, they were attacked by 2 strange machine creatures, Babivusu and Vardora, who were members of the Eevee race from the other world of Eevee Atoll, as the two managed to snatch the defeated Hades and Ngramenu from the Vala team and escape with them. It is revealed that the higher-ups of the three factions and the chief gods are aware of the Eevees and their existence due to the knowledge that was given to Azazel by a time-traveling Gaspar Vladi, as they know about the existence of the evil god Malvazoa and the fact that his brother Regal Ziva has reached their world and planned on invading. Kuo Treaty. The Kuo Treaty, Qua Coyotii, is a document signed by each of the leaders of the three factions, pledging to cease all hostility and fighting between each of its members, as further fighting between the factions would only lead to more problems for each faction, especially given how much of their populations were lost during the Great War and other conflicts such as the Devil Civil War. The document was named after Kuo Town, the location where the three factions had their conference and singed the treaty. Due to this, Kuo Town is considered as an important location to the three factions, as each of the factions have some level of representation in it, with the Devil side having the Gremory Peerage and Citri Peerage who are living in it, the Grigori, who build some bases under Kuo Town, and the Heaven side initially sending Michael's ace, Irina Shidu, as an envoy to live in the town and later building some new headquarters in a neighboring town near Kuo Town. Alliance. As the three factions began strengthening their alliance, they assisted each other in strengthening each of their factions so that the three factions could regain their former power, especially with the fact that news of the god of the Bible's death was slowly becoming known among the other mythological factions. To prevent an incursion by a hostile mythological faction, the factions slowly rebuild their numbers. For instance, with the assistance of the other scientists of the three factions, Heaven was able to create the Brave Saint system, a reincarnation system similar to that of Devils' evil pieces. Another way of increasing their power was to locate and try to recruit the possessors of Longinus' sacred gears, with the possessors being given additional training and focus in order to encourage their growth. An example would be Issei Hayadu, the pawn of the Gremory Peerage, who was trained personally by Azazel. If a Longinus was found by a member of the three factions, they had a duty to report it to the higher-ups of each of the factions. Failure to do so would constitute a breach of the Kuo Treaty, as was demonstrated when the Great King faction ordered Serord Baal to hide the identity of his pawn, Regulus' identity as the avatar of the Regulus Nemia Longinus, causing the Great King faction to be questioned by the Satan factions, with the Grigori in heaven making a complaint to the devil side. As the three factions were able to coalesce into a working alliance, they slowly began the process of trying to make alliances with the other mythological factions such as the Norse gods. Leadership. Heaven. Current leader. Gabriel, the current leader of the angels and seraphs, a group of angels that are the guardians of the throne of heaven, and the only one left after the events of the evil dragon war. Former leader. Michael. The former leader of the seraphim and one of the god of the Bible's creations, who took his place as leader after he died in the Great War. He was the leader of heaven up until the events of the evil dragon war, where he was forced to seal himself with the legendary imperial beast, Trihexa, god of the Bible. The former leader and creator of the 4 great seraphs, 10 seraphs, and the angels. He was also the creator of the holy swords and the sacred gear system. He was killed in the Great War after sealing the 2 heavenly dragons into Longinus' sacred gears. Underworld. Current leader. Ajuka Beelzebub. The current leader of the underworld and the only Satan left after the events of the evil dragon war. He is the chief advisor for the technology department and the creator of the evil pieces system and the raiding game. He is the former heir to the Astaroth clan and comes from the branch family of the Astaroth clan. Former leader. Surzex Lucifer. The former Satan Lucifer who was in charge of domestic affairs, prior to the events of the evil dragon war. Known as the Crimson Satan, he is the former leader of the second generation 4 great Satans who ruled the underworld with the title of Lucifer. He is the former heir to the Gremory clan, who is the son of the current head of the clan, Zeoticus Gremory. Lucifer. The king of devils and one of the 4 original Satans, master of the Lucifuge clan, Lilith's husband and Rhizavim's father, who is also known as the Morning Star. During the Great War, he led the original 4 great Satans and devils against the forces of heaven and Grigori, being killed during the conflict. Grigori. Current leader. Shemhazai. A cadre who was the previous vice-governor general of Grigori and the fallen angels. He became the current governor general of the Grigori after the demonic beast riot, succeeding Azazel who previously held the position. Former leader. Azazel. The former governor general of the fallen angels and Grigori. He also previously served as a chemistry teacher at Qliphoth Academy and as the advisor of the Occult Research Club, prior to sealing himself in the isolation barrier field during the Evil Dragon War. Members. The 3 factions were originally made up of the forces of heaven, consisting of the biblical God and the angels, the forces of the underworld, consisting of the 4 great Satans and the devils, and the fallen angels. After the Great War, the overall strength of the 3 factions changed drastically, with the angels losing their god, the devils losing their forces and their leaders, the 4 great Satans, and the fallen angels who lost many of their forces except their leaders. Following the creation of the evil pieces and brave saint systems, the devils and angels' forces have incorporated reincarnated humans and other species into their races. The fallen angels, meanwhile, look to repopulate their race by tempting angels, including reincarnated angels, into falling to their side, or by mixing their blood and race into hybrid children born from humans or devils. Devils. The beings that are originated from the underworld, created by the original Lucifer using the body of his wife Lilith in order to create a military force to destroy God and the angels, and realized his personal ambition for world domination. Angels. The beings created by the God of the Bible in order to fight against the devils and fallen angels. They were given light powers, which could kill devils and by extension the fallen angels. After the death of God of the Bible, the angels were incapable of increasing their numbers until the brave saints was created by the current leaders of heaven, the 4 great seraphs. Fallen angels. The former angels who have fallen from the 5th heaven due to having impure thoughts that divert them from the teachings of God and became residents to the underworld. The leaders of the fallen angels are the Grigori, were tempted by human women and had fallen after having sex with them. Despite being casted out of heaven, the fallen angels retained their ability to light-based weapons. Allies. Norse gods. Norse gods are the gods that rule over of Norse mythology. The chief Norse god, Odin, meet with the members of the 3 factions to discuss the new status quo of the 3 factions during the first match of the Youth Devil Raiding Game tournament. Later, the Norse gods officially became the allies of the 3 factions after they managed to stop Loki's attack. Greek gods. Greek gods are the gods that rule over of Greek mythology. the three factions became allies during the final match of the Youth Devil rating game tournament, as the faction leaders were able to convince the Greek gods to enter into an alliance with them. Hindu gods. Hindu gods are the gods that rule over of Hindu mythology. While most of the Hindu gods have good relations with the three factions have noted Indra as a potential risk due to his desire to have a war with Shiva and him supporting the hero faction when they were members of the Khaos Brigade. Shinto gods. Shinto gods are the gods that rule over of Japanese mythology. They became allies of the three factions in the aftermath of Loki's attack. Grauzauberer. One of the lead magician associations chaired by Mephistopheles. Due to their long-standing relationship with the Grigori, the association became the ally of the three factions not long after the Kuo Treaty. Kyoto Yukai faction. Led by Yasaka, the Kyoto Yukai faction became allies after the three factions helped save Yasaka from the hero faction. Kanto Yukai faction. Led by Nurarihayan, the Kanto Yukai faction became allies with the three factions after the three factions managed to mediate the conflict between themselves and the five principal clans. Five principal clans. When the Kyoto Yukai faction was forming an alliance with the three factions, the five principal clans also thought carefully on what they were going to do going forward. They became allies with the three factions after the three factions managed to mediate the conflict between themselves and the Kanto Yukai faction. Vampires. While at first neither of the vampire factions had any intention of negotiating with the three factions, the Carmilla faction later came to the three factions to negotiate, as they wanted to borrow Gaspar Vladi as a means to deal with the Teep side's Longinus possessor, Valerie Teeps, in exchange for the Carmilla faction being willing to enter a peace agreement with the three factions. After the vampire civil war was halted because of Qliphoth's actions, both the Carmilla and Teeps factions became allies of the three factions, as they requested the aid of the three factions in rebuilding the ravaged vampire country. Locations. Underworld. The homeworld of the devils of the 72 pillars and extra demons, and the grim reapers from the realm of the dead. It became the resident for the fallen angels after they fell from grace in heaven. It was originally ruled by the original four great Satans until their death at the Great War, and positions was taken over by Serzex Lucifer, Ajuka Beelzebub, Seraphol Leviathan, Falbium Asmodeus, making the underworld a more peaceful place for reincarnated devils. Heaven. The birthplace of the angels and the former resident of the late god of the Bible. It's the place where humans and the other species go after they died. After the biblical god's death, the four great seraphs became the leaders in order to maintain the holy system.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.